I asked my boyfriend to open our relationship so I could see my ex, and he slept with my sister instead. Now my family is destroyed. Don't they see that's crossing the line? There are rules. Even when you decide to break the rules, there are unwritten rules, invisible lines of decency and loyalty that you simply don't cross. They are the boundaries that separate us from barbarians. And I just discovered that my boyfriend, Javier, and my own sister, Sofia, have not only crossed that line, but they have danced on it. They have set fire to the entire map. And now they look at me from the other side of the ashes as if I'm the one with a problem. They accuse me of hypocrisy when what they have done is a betrayal of biblical proportions, an act so twisted that my mind still struggles to comprehend it. I've been with Javier for 3 years. He is a good, kind man, the definition of husband material. Our relationship has been a safe harbor, a welcome calm after the storm that was my previous relationship with Sergio. But calm, over time, can start to feel like stagnation. Lately, I've found myself thinking a lot about Sergio, not because I wanted to go back to him, not really, but because I miss the intensity, the drama, the feeling of being on the edge of a cliff. I miss the version of myself I was when I was with him. It was a dangerous nostalgia, a sweet poison that began to seep into my stable relationship with Javier. I felt trapped, dishonest. I loved Javier, but I longed for an echo of the past. So after weeks of mulling it over, I decided that the only honest solution was to propose a restructuring of our relationship, a modernization. I suggested we open up the relationship. It wasn't an impulsive decision, it was a strategy. In my mind there were 2 possible outcomes, and both benefited me. Scenario A, Javier, terrified of losing me, would flatly refuse, and his refusal and the resulting jealousy would rekindle the passion we had lost. Scenario B, he would accept, and I would have the freedom, with his blessing, to explore my unresolved connection with Sergio to get him out of my system and be able to return to him, to Javier, completely healed and committed. I presented the idea with all the delicacy I was capable of. I used words like radical honesty, evolution, and trust. I told him it wasn't about stopping loving him, but about loving him in a freer and more secure way. His initial reaction was what I expected. Pain, confusion, fear. He was silent for days processing it. I gave him his space, feeling like a surgeon who had just made a necessary incision, painful, but vital for the long-term health of the patient. I believed I was being incredibly brave and honest. I believed I was offering him an opportunity for our relationship to evolve. I had no idea of the monster I was about to unleash. After a week of unbearable tension, Javier finally gave me his answer, and it was not what I expected. There was no passionate refusal, no plea for me not to do it. Instead, with a calm that completely unsettled me, he told me that he had been thinking and that if this was what I needed to be happy and to be sure of our relationship, he was willing to try. But he set one condition, just one condition that at the time seemed incredibly fair and mature. He told me, okay, Clara, let's open the relationship, but the rules have to be exactly the same for both of us. Total freedom, total honesty. His acceptance surprised me, but it also filled me with dizzying euphoria. It had worked, or at least scenario B had worked. I had the green light, I had permission. The guilt had evaporated. I was no longer a potential cheater, I was a modern woman exploring the limits of her relationship with her partner's consent. I felt a wave of love and gratitude towards Javier for his maturity, for his trust. I believed that our bond was so incredibly strong that it could withstand even this. I didn't waste any time. That same night, I wrote Sergio a casual message. A strange hello. As expected, he replied immediately. The old spark was there, intact. In a couple of days, we had already arranged to have a drink. The encounter was electric, an explosion of nostalgia and a chemistry that time had not managed to extinguish. One drink led to another, and the night ended as we both knew it would. When I came home the next morning, I felt no guilt. I felt relief, as if a weight had been lifted from me. I told Javier with total honesty, as we had agreed. I told him that I had seen Sergio, that we had spent the night together, and that it had been exactly the closure I needed. I told him that now I knew, without a doubt, that my future was with him. He listened, nodded. His face was an indecipherable mask. He said, "Thank you for your honesty." And that was all. I believed we had passed the test. I believed the experimental phase had ended successfully and that now we could return to our lives stronger and more secure than ever. My idyllic vision of our emotional maturity was shattered a week later. It was a Saturday night. Javier had told me he was going out for drinks with some work friends. I stayed home happy to have a quiet night. My little sister, Sophia, called me. She was at a bar downtown and told me to come, that the atmosphere was great. I told her no, that I was tired. And then she made a strange comment. She said laughingly, "Well, anyway, Javier is already here livening up the party." I didn't know he was such a good dancer. I froze. Javier at a bar downtown. He was supposed to be with his colleagues at a quiet place near his office. A small, ugly seed of suspicion began to sprout in my mind. I started putting two and two together. The strange friendship that Javier and my sister had developed over the last few years. They had always gotten along incredibly well, full of inside jokes and a complicity that sometimes made me feel a little left out. He always said that Sophia was the fun little sister he never had, and she always looked at him with an admiration that bordered on adoration. I had always seen it as something innocent. Until that moment, with my heart pounding in my chest, I took a taxi and went to the bar. The place was crowded, and then I saw them. They were in a dark corner, not dancing, not with a group of friends. They were alone, sitting very close, talking in whispers. And then I saw it. I saw Javier lean in and kiss her. Not a kiss on the cheek, a real kiss, long and passionate. And my sister responded to him. She put her arms around his neck and returned the kiss. The world stopped. I felt as if the ground had opened beneath my feet and swallowed me whole. It was a scene from a horror movie, a double betrayal that my brain refused to process. The man I loved and the sister I adored together. It wasn't a simple one-night stand. The intimacy I saw in that kiss spoke of something much deeper, something that had been growing behind my back in my own home, fueled by my own blindness. The confrontation was a nuclear disaster that destroyed everything. I didn't enter the bar, I couldn't. I turned around, got back in the taxi, and returned to an apartment that suddenly felt like enemy territory. I waited. They arrived together almost at dawn, laughing. The image of their complicity churned my stomach. When they entered and saw me sitting in the dark, their smiles vanished. The explosion was instantaneous. I started screaming, crying, throwing the accusations that crowded in my throat at them, and their defense, their incredible and audacious defense, was what pushed me to the brink of madness. Javier, with a calm that was the ultimate offense, looked at me and said, "Clara, these were the rules. Total freedom, total honesty. You were with Sergio, I am with Sophia. We are being honest." We're being honest? The audacity. I tried to explain to him, my voice broken by rage and pain, the fundamental difference. I told him, "It's not the same, Javier. Sergio is my ex. He's someone from my past. He's external to our lives. Sophia is my sister. She's my blood. She's my family. There are limits that are not crossed." But they didn't see it. Sophia, instead of showing regret, looked at me with a kind of defiance. She told me I was being a hypocrite, that I had opened the door and couldn't complain that they had walked through it. Javier simply shrugged, as if his logic was irrefutable. They were united in their delusion, presenting their betrayal not as a stab in the back, but as an act of consistency with our agreement. It's not the same, and it's so incredibly obvious that I'm amazed I have to explain it. My encounter with Sergio was a way to close a chapter, something therapeutic to strengthen our relationship. What they have done is an incursion into the heart of my family. They have profaned the most sacred space, the relationship between two sisters. They have mixed things in such a toxic and twisted way that it is irreparable. They haven't taken advantage of the situation. They have used it as a weapon to destroy me. I am living a nightmare. I have kicked Javier out of the house, of course, and I have told my sister she is dead to me. But the victory feels empty because in the process I have destroyed my family. My parents are devastated, caught in the middle, not knowing how to handle the situation. They have tried to talk to me. They tell me I'm overreacting, that both of us made mistakes. They don't understand. My mistake was a minor fault, an error in judgment. Theirs was a fundamental act of betrayal that has overturned the chessboard. Javier's hypocrisy is what consumes me. He, who accepted my proposal with that facade of maturity and understanding. Now I see the truth. He didn't accept it to give me freedom. He accepted it because he saw an opportunity. He saw an open door to act on an attraction that, I am now sure, he had been feeling for my sister for years. He used my mistake, my moment of vulnerability, as his alibi. It was not a consequence of my actions, it was an ambush that he had been patiently waiting for. And my sister, the betrayal of blood, is the most painful of all. The child whose diapers I changed, whom I taught to ride a bicycle. I always knew she admired me, sometimes envied me, but I never imagined that her envy could transform into something so poisonous. She has attacked the heart of my life, taken my man, and done it with a defiant smile on her face, justifying it with my own rules. No, it's not fair. There are levels of betrayal. There is a universe of difference between seeking closure with an ex and starting a relationship with your partner's sister. One is a personal matter, the other is a declaration of family war. They don't see the difference, or they pretend not to see it. And that willful blindness is what makes it an act of malice, not a simple mistake. They haven't crossed the limits. They have erased the limits and danced on their ashes. Popular comments from Reddit. Anonymous User 1. Your ability to create a moral hierarchy of infidelity is truly something worthy of study. According to your rules, you sleeping with your ex is therapeutic and a chapter closure. But your boyfriend sleeping with someone else who happens to be your sister is a betrayal of biblical proportions. You opened Pandora's box of non-monogamy, and now you're horrified that monsters you don't like have come out. You can't set rules for the chaos you yourself have unleashed. OP's response. Of course there are rules. There are always rules. They are unwritten rules of basic decency. Family is off limits. Very close friends are off limits. It's common sense. It's not a moral hierarchy, it's the difference between a personal mistake and an act of family sabotage. They are two completely different things. Anonymous User 2. What did you expect, Clara? That you would open the cage to go hunting while the rest of us stayed inside, watching you. Your sister, although her action was terrible, hit the nail on the head. Your open relationship proposal was incredibly selfish. It was designed for you to resolve your issues with your ex. It doesn't seem like you stopped to think for a second about Javier's feelings or what he might do with his new freedom. You wanted permission, not a partnership? OP's response. Of course I thought about him. I assumed that, as the mature person I thought he would use his freedom with discretion and respect, that perhaps he would have a meaningless one-night stand with a stranger, not that he would use it to blow up my family structure. His choice was not random, it was a directed missile. Anonymous User 3. You are experiencing the concept of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Did you want to provoke jealousy in Javier? Did you want the freedom to explore your past? He gave you exactly what you asked for and used it in a way that would cause you the greatest possible impact. It was cruel, yes, but it was a direct and predictable consequence of your own initial action. You can't complain about the rules of a game you invented yourself. OP's response. I didn't invent this game. I proposed an evolution of our relationship. They invented a completely different game, one called How to Destroy Clara, and they are playing it with a cruelty I don't deserve. My mistake doesn't justify their level of betrayal. Final update. A month has passed since the night of the apocalypse, a month of a cold war that has divided my family and destroyed my life. Javier left home that same night, and Sofia, my sister, went to a friend's house, leaving a trail of destruction in her wake. I have cut off all communication with her. Her messages of "we need to talk" remain unread. To me, she is dead. The situation with my parents has been hell on earth. They are devastated, trying to act as mediators in a civil war. Last week, they organized a forced peace summit at their house, one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. They forced me to sit in the same room as Sofia. Javier, of course, didn't come. He refused to participate in the circus, which only proves his cowardice. I expected my parents to take my side, to understand the magnitude of Sofia's betrayal. Instead, they tried to be impartial, and their impartiality felt like a betrayal. The confrontation with my sister was surreal. Far from being the remorseful figure I expected, she defended herself with a coldness that chilled me. She told me she was tired of living in my shadow, of seeing me play with the feelings of a good man like Javier while I remained obsessed with my ex. She said that Javier and she had developed a real connection, a friendship that I, in my selfishness, was incapable of seeing. And then she dropped the bomb. She told me, "What did you expect, Clara? That you would open the cage so you could go hunting while the rest of us stayed inside, watching you? You proposed a game with total freedom. And this is what happens when people are truly free. You don't like it because you've lost control." She accused me of being a hypocrite and a control freak. My parents didn't stop her. They just stood there watching as if her arguments had some kind of validity. I left that house feeling more alone and betrayed than ever, not only by my boyfriend and my sister, but by my own parents, who refuse to see who the real victim is here. Popular comments from Reddit about Update 1. Anonymous User 4. Your sister's defense is brutally honest. She has held up a mirror to your own behavior, and you didn't like the reflection. She and Javier apparently formed a bond based on a shared experience, being secondary characters in your personal drama. Your open relationship proposal didn't give them freedom, it gave them a common cause. Response to common cause. What a poetic way to call a conspiracy. They united in their resentment towards me. It's not a love story, it's an alliance of villains, and my parents, by not condemning her, have become their accomplices. User, Anonymous 5. Your sister has called you out on your hypocrisy in a way that's hard to ignore. And your parents, by trying to be impartial, are probably recognizing that while your sister's and Javier's actions were hurtful, you were the one who started the whole mess. They're not betraying you. They're desperately trying to find neutral ground on a battlefield that you yourself created. Response of the app. There is no neutral ground in a situation like this. You are either with your daughter or against her. They have chosen to be against me, and that is something I don't know if I will ever be able to forgive. Family is supposed to be unconditional. Anonymous User 6. You don't like it because you've lost control. This phrase from your sister is the key to everything. Your open relationship wasn't about freedom, it was about control. You wanted to control your access to your ex while keeping Javier under control. And the moment he used that same freedom to get out of your control, the system collapsed. Response from AC. It's not about control, it's about betrayal, it's about the choice of person. There are a million women in the world. He chose the only one who was a declaration of war. It was a deliberate choice to hurt me, not an act of freedom. Final update. A year has passed, a year of self-imposed exile from my own family and a loneliness that has become my natural state. The divorce or breakup is a fait accompli. My relationship with my parents is a cold formality, birthday calls and little else. I haven't spoken to my sister again. Sergio, my ex, seeing the cataclysm that had been unleashed, wisely distanced himself, leaving me completely alone with the consequences of my experiment. The news that put the final period on this saga reached me last week through a distant cousin. Javier and my sister Sofia are still together. And not only that, they live together. They're in a serious, formal relationship. They have built a life on the ruins of mine. The image of them together in my old apartment, choosing furniture, cooking dinner, is a torture that my mind plays on repeat. In a final act of needing control, of having the last word, I wrote a long and poisonous email to Javier. I didn't ask him to come back, I attacked him. I accused him of being a predator, a monster who had taken advantage of my proposal to explore honesty to seduce my vulnerable younger sister. I accused him of having planned everything, of having destroyed my family as an act of calculated revenge. His response was the last communication we will have. It was short, cold, and threw all the responsibility back on me. He wrote, "Clara, you opened a door and I walked out. And outside I found someone who saw me, not the ghost of another man. I never wanted to hurt you. But I also wasn't going to sit around waiting while you tried to revive your past. Your sister and I are happy. The only limit that was crossed that night was the one you yourself dynamited by proposing an open relationship that was only for you. And that is my conclusion. I have been the victim of a betrayal of Shakespearean proportions. My boyfriend and my sister, the two people I trusted most, were probably destined to be together. And my attempt to be modern and honest was simply the excuse they needed to stab me in the back. I didn't make a mistake. I was the scapegoat in their own twisted love story, and that is the injustice I will have to live with. Popular comments from Reddit about the final update. Anonymous User 1. You opened a door and I walked out, and outside I found someone who saw me, not the ghost of another man. Your ex has given you the most concise and brutal truth possible, and you still refuse to accept it. You're still clinging to an elaborate conspiracy theory where you're the innocent victim instead of the catalyst of the disaster. Your inability for introspection is the true tragedy here. Response from the app. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's the only explanation that makes sense. The speed and seriousness of their relationship with my sister demonstrate that this wasn't spontaneous. It was latent, and they used my proposal as their alibi. Anonymous User 7. You have lost your boyfriend, your sister, and practically your parents. You haven't gotten back with your ex. You are completely alone. And your final conclusion is that you have been the victim of a treacherous betrayal. No, Clara, you have been the author of one. And now you refuse to read your own work. Response from the app. I don't refuse to read it. I simply interpret it in a way that allows me to survive. You call it self-deception. I call it resilience. Anonymous User 8. This story is a perfect example of how selfishness disguised as modernity and honesty can destroy everything. You wanted permission to have an affair without consequences, and you ended up with nothing. The lesson here is as clear as water, and yet you refuse to drink it. I'm afraid you will continue to blame others for the thirst you yourself have caused. Response from the AB. I didn't want an affair, I wanted an exploration, and I don't refuse to drink. I simply don't believe that the water you offer me is the truth. My truth is that I was betrayed, and that is the story I'm sticking with.